there, and how happy I am to see David there with a bright green banner, and it says new member. Thank you, David, for supporting our YouTube channel. That's so nice of you, and it's good to see you out there. And Angela, how are you doing over there today?
I'm doing okay.
Good.
Yeah, just trying to breathe and stuff.
Yeah. So today we're going to have a topic that could become controversial, I suppose. We'll see where it goes. And actually, I'm taking it once again from Joe's book, Beyond Belief: Agnostic Musings from 12-Step Life. I tell you what, that's an excellent book. If you ever need a topic for a meeting, that's a go-to book. I mean, that's what Angela and I go to if we don't know what to talk about. We pull
Yeah,
that book out and read it and find
there's
something.
always something good.
Always something good. And today's reading is taken from today, August 27th. You know, sometimes I won't pick today's reading because it's too much. That's something I don't relate to. But today's I thought was pretty good. So I don't know. Does anybody have? Do you have any announcements you want to go into, Angela, before we start?
I don't have anything that's going on.
I don't.
Do you know of anything that's going on?
I do kind of know something's going on. Well, I guess. Yeah. Well, we're having our ICSA meeting tomorrow, Saturday, and we're going to talk about whether or not that conference is going to take place in DC. It's looking like it might be kind of iffy. So
Yeah,
we're
we'll
talking
let
about
you
that.
know next week if there's an answer
Next
on
week you'll
that.
know. Well, yeah, tomorrow after the meeting we'll probably know for sure, but
Yeah,
not looking good.
yeah.
So
No,
because
that's
of,
understandable. Like in our area, I checked today, and there's 49 ICU beds available in the entire state.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, it's just not a good time to travel
yeah,
because that's one of the things. I love to ride my scooter during the summer, and I think I'm going to have to stop for the rest of the summer because if I get hurt, there's a chance that there might not be a spot for me in the hospital,
yeah.
because of Delta. So anyway, so I'm not super worried that I'm going to go out because of Delta. I'm super worried that I'm
Yeah,
going to go
something
out
else
because
happens.
there's no beds
Right.
because
Yeah.
of Delta. So it might be a good idea. But yeah, we'll be looking forward to hearing about what you guys decide.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep. So
yeah.
yeah, we'll find out tomorrow. I really think it's not going to happen, honestly, because of the situation.
Yeah,
So,
it's so
anyways,
frustrating.
it is.
Yeah,
Just when you think you're getting out of it, and all of a sudden
right.
everything goes to hell again. So,
Yeah, I was just telling somebody the other day because I have to restrict, who I spend time with and doing stuff because my mom is, immune compromised, and I'm not going to stay with her this time. We have enough resources that she's able to get, do the drive up grocery and all that kind of stuff. But I still need to be more thoughtful of who I spend time with and
yeah.
how I conduct myself, and so it feels like I'm being quarantined, even though it's not an official quarantine. And so so I'm like, all right, well, let's see, what am I going to remodel this year? I remodeled my mom's place last year and painted the walls and did all of that stuff. Maybe I'll learn Norwegian or something. By the time all of this gets squared away, hopefully I'll have a few new skills to share with others. I may not be able to socialize anymore because I'll forget how to do that, but I could speak Norwegian. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, okay. So before I read this, why don't I make sure I said hello to the people who are out there? Joe M, hello. Anchor, hello. Christine, hello. Joe, I already said. And who else is out there? Angela, hello. Anchor, hello. I think that's everybody that's said something. And David, that's everybody who's
Oh,
chatted so far. And we've got 16 people hanging in there with us, 17 people now. So welcome everybody who is with us. Hey, Joe, good to see you. Joe, we're reading from your book, and I just complimented this book, and it's just excellent. If you're looking for a topic, this is the book to go to. Christine L and Tracy and Angela. Okay, hello everyone. Now let's get started. So maybe we'll all just have a big fight over this reading. We'll see.
Yeah, because
Maybe
we're
part
such an
one.
argumentative group on Fridays.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. August 27th. I could share the screen just in case people want to read along. I'll do that just for the fun of it because it's fun. It's fun. It's fun. Technology is fun. I think I do this right. You do it right. Yes. And I gotta take this other one down. Boop, boop, boop. There you go. There you go, guys. You can hopefully read along with me. All right, August 27th. The biggest challenge seemed to revolve around how to characterize the spiritual transformation, which was at the heart of the program. Even when the total membership was made up of just 40 sober alcoholics, their views on the subject ranged from fervent belief that the entire program was divinely inspired to adamant agnosticism or atheism. And that is a quote from Bill W., a biography of Alcoholics Anonymous, co founder Bill Wilson. That's what he said. That's interesting. So, and that was by Frances Hartigan. And I don't know if I've read that book by Frances Hartigan. Anyway, so sounds like coffee shop chatter that could have taken place after yesterday's meeting, doesn't it? We have literalists who treat our text as sacred, and we have just as many who think that revising them biannually wouldn't be often enough. Founders were forward thinkers who overcame their biases to welcome gays, people of color, women, and young people, despite their fears that inclusion could dilute the program, impact reputation, or spell its demise. Quite the opposite happened. Vive la différence. That's my French accent.
That's terrible.
Is it terrible? You got to hear me try the English accent sometime. All right. The openness of interpretation, the take what you like, leave the rest structure of 12 and 12 meetings, the invitation to define spiritual transformation or dismiss it. All these freedoms of choice are ensconced in our traditions. Oh, we will meet people whom we find disagreeable, and we will find conflict with some of the suggestions and assumptions laid out in the program of recovery. This is the way of life that invites questioning and trying new things on for size. We are equal, but not the same. We each trudge a unique path of happy destiny, a pattern that is as individual as our thumbprints. We are likely to identify with many, yet unlikely ever to meet our identical recovery twins. After the Alcoholics Anonymous text had been in circulation for a while, Bill W. and the founders felt they didn't quite articulate the spiritual aspect of recovery, so they added Appendix 2, which reported that while transformations of a religious nature were not uncommon, educational variety awakenings happened over time with the same good effect as any white light experience. Here's the question. Am I trying to hear from everyone? Some people's experiences with recovery, were I to duplicate them, would take me outside of my comfort zone. Do I try on new things and keep an open mind? There you go.
There you go.
And I'll put the picture back up. So interesting. And now, if you guys want to comment, you can do so by calling. You can make comments in the chat, obviously, and you can also call in to 844-899-8278, and we got that number going on in the bottom of the screen there, so you can see it and call in anytime. And we'd love to hear from you. So, Angela, would you mind kicking this show off?
Sure. Yeah. So when I saw what you posted for the topic, let's see, the transformative experience is either a spiritual awakening or a psychic change. I went to my well-used copy of the big book and and I tried to remember, where psychic change was. I could look it up on the internet, I'm sure, but I recalled that I thought it was in the doctor's opinion.
That's right.
And sure
That's
enough,
right.
yeah,
So. Mm-hmm.
and so so it was. Let's see. I'll read from it. Let's see. Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontented unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks which they see others taking with impunity. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, the phenomenon of craving develops. They pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, or unless can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. Yeah, and then on the other hand, and strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, I underline doomed, that's how old this book is, who had so many problems, he despaired over ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol, the only effort necessary being that required to follow a few simple rules. So yeah, so that's one of the parts that I looked to when you brought the topic up. And then I went to the well-run spiritual experience. And I recall in my early recovery, my first probably 6 months at least, that people who were trying to be helpful and knew that I was in the room, would often go to read this, because in many of the meetings you had your choice of readings, and generally people would read how it works, or a vision for you, or something along those lines. But this one, but some of them also had the option of reading the spiritual experience. So this was one that they would often try to read, on my behalf. And so I thought, it would be helpful to read it along with, what we read today. So, spiritual experience. The terms spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book, which, upon careful reading, shows that the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. Yet it is true that our first printing gave many readers the impression that these personality changes or religious experiences must be in the nature of sudden and spectacular upheavals. Happily for everyone, this conclusion is erroneous. In the first few chapters, a number of sudden revolutionary changes are described. Though it was not our intention to create such an impression, many alcoholics have nevertheless concluded that in order to recover, they must acquire an immediate and overwhelming God consciousness, followed at once by a vast change in feeling and outlook. Among our rapidly growing membership of thousands of alcoholics, such transformations, though frequent, are by no means the rule. Many of our experiences are what the psychologist William James calls the educational variety, because they develop slowly over a period of time. Quite often, friends of the newcomer are aware of the differences long before he is himself. He finally realizes that he has undergone a profound alteration in his reaction to life, that such a change could hardly have been brought about by himself alone. What often takes place in a few months could seldom have been accomplished by years of self-discipline. With a few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped an unsuspected inner resource, which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves. Most of us think this awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of a spiritual experience. Our more religious members call it God consciousness. Most emphatically, we wish to say that any alcoholic capable of honestly facing his problems in the light of our experience can recover, provided he does not close his mind to all spiritual concepts. He can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerance or belligerent denial. We find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Yeah. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery, but these are indispensable. And then there's the quote, there is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. Herbert Spencer.
Well, thank you for reading that, Angela.
Yes,
As you were
yes.
reading that, we had a caller. He's on the line now, or she's on the line. They're from Richmond, Virginia. I'm wondering if it might be Fred. Shall
All
we
right.
see who's there?
Yeah.
Hello, this is John.
Hello, Angela. Hi, John.
I knew it was Fred. How you doing, Fred? It's been a long time.
Oh, pretty good. I'm doing well, thank you. I was thinking of the Jungian idealism that that inspired that writing, because
Yeah.
you understand Carl Jung.
Mm-hmm.
He had that idea of the same like the Buddhist idea of life after death. And he pursued that. So, when you're at death's door from drinking and you think that you're at the dismal point
Mm-hmm.
where it's not going to get any better, only you feel peril of existence, that might be the turning point. But for me, I never had that kind of a spiritual awakening, and I didn't see any white light either.
Mm-hmm.
Like they say, Bill did. But I will comment on the reading, because it asks for a conception greater than yourself. Well, I can go back, like the Buddhist, to a pre-life. That was my mom and my dad, and their lovemaking made me. But
Mm-hmm.
that's conception. So, if you think you have a greater idea than that, if there's a greater idea than procreation,
Mm-hmm.
and you think that that's your higher power, I would say you're just as crazy as the next fellow. Because, when you think about it, if there was a God who's Mrs. God, or if there was if we're all children of God, why did he murder everybody before Noah? And if we're all these kinds of things that they talk about, it's so crazy, for their concepts, and whether or not you know it to be a fallacy or to be onerous instead of erroneous. Well, you honor your mom and dad, right? Because they're your parents, because that's what you were taught. So all we have is data that we've been given to expound on. Nobody has their own free thinking about it. And if they do, they don't express it because you're still reading the same stuff right out of the big book that makes no sense whatsoever.
Right.
I expected more from this episode, because I got a ring on the phone this afternoon saying, reminder to watch on the show.
Oh, good.
And I hadn't been with you for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and I was looking at it and I'm saying to myself, Carl Jung couldn't even help a single alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy came to him, he was rich from New York, and he couldn't help him. He called him chronic. He said he'll never recover. Well, if somebody tells you that before you even get started, do you have any will to even try or want to change?
No.
Here's the thing about spiritual awakening. Awakening for me was, I was lucky enough to put the plug in the jug, go cold turkey, and had some friends that were there who tried to say, well, you don't have to drink, and substitute it with this and try to do that. So the change for me was not coming home after work and getting a bottle, try to live my life with that bottle. That was the change.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the good things started. Then the good things started to happen, and that was the fellowship of friends. But
Yeah.
the
And you have a
friends
friend
were not
that's
always there.
yeah, you have a friend that's missed
Friends.
you, Fred. Joe M wanted to say that it's great to hear from you. He's missed you.
Yeah, it is good to hear from you, Fred.
Okay. Well, friends were not always there. So, you have to rely on your own self, because you're the one who made the decision. You're the one who wants it, and you're the one who works for it. Whatever happens after that, it's all up to you, because you can follow that plan that they have. And did you ever hear anybody balk at all of those things? I never did. I never heard anybody say, I'm going to balk at all this stuff because I don't believe one word of it.
No, not
But
really.
they believe some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So, it's a bunch of BS.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
I kind of agree with you. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for calling. It really is nice to hear from you, and everybody is happy to hear from you. So thank you so much, Fred.
The program does work. This is what works about it. If you work it, it works. That's all you got to do is work it for yourself.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. They're going to say how it works. It's how you do it.
Cool.
And if you want to stay sober, that's what you got to do.
Yep.
But there's tons of ways to do it.
Yep.
And just because of steps or these ideas that people had given, it's only their knowledge. You're only feeding off their data.
Yep.
You don't have a thought in your head except to listen to what they say, and then you're brainwashed.
Well,
so
Fred,
you can't come up with any new ideas on your own.
Yeah, you've given us a lot to chew on. Thank you so much. I think we're going to consider some of what you said, and there's a lot of comments coming through the chat room. So thank you, Fred. I hope you have a good evening. And
That's good. That's good. Confrontation is good because they say there's no controversy in AA.
Oh, yeah.
No controversy whatsoever in AA.
I hear you.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks,
you take care.
Thanks, John. Bye, Angela.
Bye-bye.
You be good now.
I'll try.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Yeah, controversy is I've actually come to the conclusion that controversy is okay, because you know what? If people are fighting about AA and they're passionate enough to fight about it, well, that's what's keeping them engaged in their recovery, right? So it can't
something like that.
Yeah, it can't be all bad. So
So Tracy says, when I hear folks give credit to God or their higher power for their sobriety, I think, then why didn't God or HP allow them to have the substance disorder in the first place?
Crazy.
Yeah, that's what I'm with you on that. I'm totally with you on that. So yeah, we have a lot of crazy stuff. There was another comment on spiritual that I got on there, but I seem to have lost it.
Oh man,
so
there's been so much that people have been talking about,
or church or whatever. But I do have to come clean. This is slightly off the topic, I guess. That I don't know if I told everybody that I am an ordained minister now.
The Church
of the Spaghetti Monster.
Oh,
and
congratulations.
Yeah, Thank you, thank you. Some friends asked me to do a wedding, and so I needed to get ordained, and this was one
Awesome.
of the more fun ones. But I wanted to share the back of my card so that people know what I'm able to do in case they need my religious guidance. But it's let it be known that this card holder is an ordained minister of the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, and is entrusted to exercise the duties of the ministry, including sermonizing, presiding over holy ceremonies such as marriages and baptisms, giving last rites, and casting out false prophets. I'm really excited about that. You're a false prophet. The church requests assistance from the concerned authorities in carrying out these solemn duties and expects that the minister will be granted the respect, privileges, and honors due to a person of the cloth. This card holder agrees to represent the church in good faith and will not attempt to use this ID in an unlawful manner. So, yeah. So if anybody needs my services, there you go.
Well, good.
And yeah, raw man. Okay. So the other thing that I was looking at with this topic is in Ernest Kurtz's book, Not God, A History of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was looking up where, because I recalled he did have a slight thing on psychological approaches versus spiritual.
Oh.
And where it comes from, it's in the Appendix B, and it's mainly has to do with the clarifying between professional and non-professional, because AA and like Overeaters Anonymous and Gamblers Anonymous and stuff are non-professional, and then ACOA is something that was actually, I guess, originated from professionals, adult children of alcoholics. So anyway, so he breaks down in summary, so brief it verges on a caricature. The psychological approach focuses on push forces, so like drives and conditioning. The spiritual attends to pull forces, like meaning and virtue. So focusing on what one can do, the social scientific style aims to affect change. Rooted in the admission of creaturelandness or powerless and unmanageability, spirituality emphasizes becoming willing and then humbly asking to be changed. Most practitioners of healing in fields related to alcoholism acknowledge the need for both the psychological and the spiritual, recognizing them to be complementary rather than in conflict. But the different emphases lead to different approaches, and at times to styles different to harmonize, reflecting attention as ancient as culture itself. Those who view themselves primarily as masters of hard-earned knowledge, and those who find their first identity as recipients of a gift of wisdom, tend to view each other warily. Academics and artists usually respect but rarely understand each other. So I thought that was interesting, breaking it down as kind of the psychological or the psychic change as being more of the push and the force, the drives and conditioning, and that a spiritual awakening as more of a pull, like the meaning and virtue.
Yeah.
And so that was something that I thought was helpful in, discerning the two a little bit, although I think it's basically the same thing.
Yeah. If you think about recovery just being a process of change that we go through, and people are going to describe it in different ways. And some people that are religious are going to say it was all God oriented and given to them. And people who are not religiously oriented and maybe perhaps, reject it are going to say, yeah, this is because of work I've done and people who've helped me, which I think is what this basically happens to everybody, honestly.
Yeah.
and we do change, we do change.
Right.
And that's I guess the point of it is, to continue to try to improve. And so, yeah,
Right.
I kind of reject the whole spiritual thing, but I'm not out there attacking anybody who wants to explain their experience that way. That's totally fine. I think bottom line is, people are experiencing sobriety and change in their lives, and they just have different ways of describing it. That's all there is to it, as far as I see it. But
Yeah.
I did latch on to that psychic change language early on when I was exposed to the big book.
Yeah, and I think that it's more of what most people within the secular, community talk about
Yeah.
is the psychic change. I think awakening is kind of more within like the Buddhist
Hmm.
realm,
Hmm.
or mindfulness, that type of thing. And then, the spiritual experience is generally more within a theist type
Yeah.
of thing. So
And even Bill's
it's
experience in the hospital,
mhm,
I've heard tapes, and a historian out there can correct me, but it seems like even the Bill's contemporaries made
mhm,
fun of his experience. They called it his hot flash. Yeah, and even he kind of made fun of it. So I
mhm.
almost wonder if, like, later on in life, if he kind of realized, maybe that medicine, or the whatever was
Belladonna.
happened, yeah, maybe that had something to do with what I was going through. I don't know, but
Yeah, well, and and it could be a psychosomatic type thing. I believe in was it in Not God or the other one, where they talk about that his father or grandfather had a similar experience, and so
mm.
it was kind
Oh,
of
that's
taken
right.
from
Oh, that's
that, and so
right.
it could very much be that with the aid of medication.
Oh my
He
God, that's
had
right. I
that
forgot about
idea
that.
already, and
It
so
was
it
planted in
felt
his head from his
real. Yeah,
grandfather. Yeah,
so
that's
it
right.
it
Hmm.
felt very real, and so therefore, it was real, and
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah. I
And
mean,
even the doctor said, I don't know what happened to you, Bill, but if it's helping you, hang on to it.
right. Yeah, exactly. Kind of just with reality and consciousness in general. I mean,
Hmm.
are we conscious? Does it matter if we are? Is there free will? Does it matter if there is?
Are
you
we
know,
living
you,
in a
you,
simulation?
are we living in a simulation? Yeah. I mean, would you go about your life any different if you
I
weren't?
want to do an episode sometime about we're living in a simulation.
You really do? Because I will. I think about
Okay.
it every single day. And yeah. And then there's a movie out there that's pretty good right now. It's funny. Free Guy.
Oh.
So yeah, so Jonathan and I actually went and saw it like at 9:15 at night on a Wednesday. And so there was nobody there. Well, there were 10 people there in a stadium that seats 187. So we felt pretty
Oh.
safe about it. But yeah, it's really really good. I think it's something that people should see. One, it's funny, but also it poses some questions about reality, and I think it's helpful to consider. So
Yeah, I'm just
yeah,
kind of going through the comments there as you were
okay.
talking. Yeah, Tracy said that Bill's experience of a hot flash could only be made by a man who's
Yeah,
never had
that was my thought of
one.
when they said that was, of course, they degrade him by using a woman concept.
Yeah,
So
I know. It's
yeah, just the
terrible. I
good old
know.
boys, never meaning no
Yes.
harm.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway,
But Joe agrees that the experience was like his grandfather's.
yeah,
So
yeah. So yeah, I think that the psychic change is a better term, although it's just a adjustment, a perspective change. I think is what we will probably use now, since most of us aren't into psychics. Um,
yeah. Oh yeah.
so I
Yeah,
think we just
that's kind of weird. Psychic change, psychological
perspective,
change.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
language changes, and so even that, we think a little bit differently now. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's a perspective change. It's getting an understanding, an awareness of what's actually going on with you, with your patterns, with your biology, and how that affects your psychology, and then seeing what you can do differently, and creating new patterns and new behaviors and new, dare I say, discipline
Mm.
to have a better life.
Yep.
So yeah,
So
so
Do you get worked up at all if somebody who is an atheist, for example, and they say that they've had a spiritual experience and they have spiritual practices that are important to them and they describe it in spiritual terms? Does how do you feel when you hear something like that?
Yeah, I don't care.
I don't care either. I don't
I
care
mean,
either. I
you
could
know,
care
I
less.
mean,
Isn't that funny?
yeah, it's not that I don't care, like,
I know.
whatever, buddy,
I know. I
don't talk to
know.
me. I don't want to hear about your life. But
It
it's no,
bothers me not at all.
it's just, yeah,
I'm like,
it's not
yeah,
something that I'm concerned about with labels and stuff, because
no, me either.
I know a person that used to go to our meeting who was atheist, and I think I shared this before, and would go to the big atheist conventions with
Uh-huh.
Sam Harris and all of
Uh-huh.
those, big atheist, woo-woos, or not woo-woos, but whatever. And then she would go to church every Sunday in her little town, because that's just what she did, and
Yeah.
and church wasn't spiritual to her.
Yeah.
And it was funny because she also hated the word spiritual more than religious and
Yeah.
stuff. And so, yeah, so it was just really interesting. So I feel like I've seen most of it now, and that, yeah, because
Yeah.
I know quite a few Christians who, behave in ways that go, against my understanding of biblical teachings, and and still claim, what they, think that they are. So yeah, so cool with that.
Yeah.
And then atheists that are spiritual, and
Okay, yeah.
and then these
That's something
days,
I just
you
don't
know,
understand I don't understand, like, I have a friend in Washington, DC,
yeah,
who goes absolutely
you
ape shit.
do,
He
really
goes absolutely
weird.
freaking crazy over people that are
Yeah.
spiritual, and I'm like, "Why does he
Yeah,
why?"
yeah, yeah. People have different hobbies and interests, and yeah, and that can be frustrating at
Yeah.
times, just because it often upsets other people. And
Mm.
so that's when it's difficult, particularly I find in our Facebook group, because people are coming in at different levels of
Exactly.
what their experience is with AA, and some are
Oh,
just
yeah.
now finding that this, and some think that that agnostic is as far as you can go within AA. That
Yep.
atheist is just like, wow, I don't even know if that's possible. How would you do that? And so they come in and they're asking questions and stuff, and so some people are like, yeah, I pray each day. I don't believe in God, but I find that prayer is
Right.
helpful.
Yeah.
And then if somebody goes off on blah blah, you can't do that, you're not an atheist, and it's like, why?
I know.
It's just like, it doesn't
People
work for you, then it doesn't work for you. But I know quite a few people that have no spiritual
yeah,
belief, don't believe in any certain intervening deity, but they call it prayer. To
sure.
me, it would be like meditation,
Right.
or a moment
A
of
mantra or something.
mindfulness,
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
yeah, something like that. But that's what I would call it. It's
Yeah.
not what they call it. So I try to be respectful of that.
But I
You know,
like what
it,
you said about people coming into that group with different phases of different places in their recovery,
mm-hmm,
because I mean, gosh, I can point to, like, for example, in the Santa Monica conference in 2014, I remember quite clearly, I had an opportunity to speak a little bit about my group and so forth, and I remember very clearly, and it was, I believed it to the depths of my being at the time, that I said I
mm-hmm,
was going to be a spiritual atheist, and that's how I saw
mm-hmm,
myself. I thought
yeah,
spirituality was, at that time in my life, I thought, well, that's what it is. It's AA. I mean, you got to do it, right?
mm-hmm,
And I had to find a way to make spirituality work. Well, now I evolved to this person here who today says I have no use for it. Oh, we have another caller. I can't
mm-hmm.
believe this. Now, this person is also from Richmond. This can't be Fred again. Oh my God, he's hello. Who is this from Richmond, Virginia?
It is Fred again,
Oh my God, Fred.
because I wanted to comment to Angela.
All right.
Oh dear.
Angela, congratulations on being the best in the West. Spaghetti monsters are prevalent there, as well as cowboys, right? So
Something like that.
I wanted to ask you this question, since you're a minister.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me, Angela, if sanctified grace, after what you read, if sanctified grace is the same thing as actual grace, because they said we were saved by the grace of God. So that means you have, when you say you have to do the will of God, well, how does an atheist do the will of God if they don't believe in God? And the other thing is, actual grace is different than sanctified grace, but a minister can give grace. So if you give meatballs, I don't know as a spaghetti monster, if you give meatballs or sausage, I don't know which it is. Or extra cheese, who knows?
Yeah.
Oh, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So I can sanctify the dinner, any sort of pasta based dinner, because this is the fastest
life is a banquet,
fastest
life is a
carbohydrate
banquet,
growing.
right?
Yeah, growing carbohydrate religion. But yeah, I would be. I prefer to only bless or sanctify vegetarian meatballs, which is very upsetting to some people, but it's my choice. And yeah, and generally I just say,
And that's not with a little extra oregano, right?
right,
That's not with extra oregano, right?
Yeah. Well, preferably garlic.
They like that on the side. They like that. They like that also. Besides the wine sauce or whatever it is, right?
Something like that.
They like the oregano.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but
So you
I
have to
will
be
I'll
because
bless
that
you, Fred.
stuff is,
Yeah, I'll bless you right now.
That sanctified stuff.
Yeah, may the noodly appendage bless you today, raw man.
All right.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I really crack me up sometimes. Thanks a lot so much.
Yeah.
I thought I was crazy before, but, now I had to call you back a second time after what you read.
All right.
Because by God's grace, that's how we don't drink.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, Fred.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.
And there we go. All right. Boy, this is one crazy night. All right.
It definitely is.
So, yeah, I did reach out to the Satanists and they did tell me to go to hell, but they don't want to be on no, I want to have the Satanists on the podcast. There's a Satan people, there's Satanists in recovery, and they were going to come on the podcast and they were excited about it. And I just never heard back from them. But, people just kind of, they just kind of forget. So I might reach out to them again and ask them if they want to come on. So anyway.
Yeah. Let them know.
Ooh.
And I can talk to them too if you want. I'm usually pretty good with the pupils. So yeah, and there's different groups. There's the Satanists, and then there is the why am I blanking on it now?
I
the
think
Church of Satan.
I think the Church of Satan might have been the ones that we reached out to, and they were like, because they're kind of, I guess what it is like they're saying that, okay, if you're going to have all these public places, if they're going to put up mangers and religious symbols, then they also have to make room for the Satanists and put up Satanist symbols and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're actually a humanist group, but yeah.
They use it as a way of just kind of making a point, I guess.
Well, and they also have started AA meetings. So, well, not AA, but their own recovery meetings, and so they're a humanist group, and because the wedding that I'm presiding over in October is a goth wedding, so I actually looked there first to see about getting ordained, and they actually have like a course and stuff you have to do, and I'm just not up for that. And so I just went with Church of the Spaghetti Monster. I already had the book, so it was easy to do. But it would be cool to have them on and to hear about the different options. But yes, that is one that does sometimes cause some conflict and discussion as well. And I don't know if they would call their experience of change within recovery, a psychic change or a spiritual awakening, or what that would be. So it would be very interesting to get in touch with them and find out.
Yeah. Okay. So what other thoughts do you have on this subject, Angela?
Yeah, I'm a little bit recovering from the last conversation. Yeah.
Well,
No,
the
I don't
Beardo
know. Yeah.
says, he says, I can usually describe my philosophy, but always have to make sure whoever is asking has the free time. Not many people are ready for my ADHD. And Anchor has something to say about the Satanists. He says that the Satanists started having recovery meetings to kind of stick it to the powers that be, the forced drunk drivers and whatnot to attend. Oh, the ones that force drunk drivers and
Yeah.
whatnot to attend AA meetings. So they kind of
Yeah.
started off as kind of a needle at AA, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, at the government. I mean, it's the
Oh, the
same thing
government
like
that gotcha.
because it's the courts that order people to attend AA, and that goes against church and state because,
Right.
and so AA, tries to say that they're not a religion, but in most of the courts, at least in North America, the Supreme Court and then the Canadians, thingamajiggy, have said that it does qualify as a religion because it has its own book, and there's certain languages, and there's a couple of different qualifications that make it a religion, or a cult. I think they specified cult, but I'm not positive. It's been a while since I've looked at it. And so that's again part of what this humanist group does is set stuff up like that. There's a good documentary on what was it on? I think it was on Amazon Prime. That talks about it. They went through their own crazy thing as well with different core people wanting to go different directions, and all of that kind of stuff. It just seems par for the course with stuff like this. People are people.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah.
Oh yeah, Joe says that
Thingamajiggy, Human Rights Commission. Excellent. Yeah. So my American to Canadian is not good. The best I got was from South Park the movie. So,
right.
we're in trouble. Thank you for
Oh, that's funny.
clarifying,
Yeah,
Joe.
it's funny. But so yeah, I could easily see how AA could be considered. I considered it my religion actually. Looking back on it, I treated it as a religion. I followed the rules they gave me. I did my praying in the morning. I did my praying at night. I read the one book that they told me was the book, and I did all of that, And so yeah, it was kind of a religion for me, and no doubt about it. But didn't think that way at the time. So yeah,
Yeah.
Tracy says on Amazon Prime. What's the show called, Angela? Do you remember?
It's called Hail Satan.
Hail
And
Satan.
it's on the Satanic Temple. That's what they're called. So they're different than the Church of Satan, and they're a humanist group that usually in more conservative states will challenge the government over having statues like the Ten Commandments and stuff on government property, and when there's any sort of thing like having prayer before a government meeting, they will bring a lawsuit to request that they get to have a prayer if the group, the government group, does not let them. So like city councils and things like that. And so it's a really interesting show, and I learned a lot from it, and I like a lot of what they're doing now. It was interesting seeing the history and some of the changes they went through, because some of it I would have been like, I don't know, it's interesting for art, but as far as a political thing, I don't quite get it. But most of what they've done lately has been has been much more on the human rights and separation of church and state angle. So anyway, yeah.
So I'll have to check that movie out too. Pete has something to say here. Have any anti-AA website helped anyone here? He's thinking of the Orange Papers and similar sites. I don't agree with everything they say, but I found them useful. I visited the Orange Papers before, and to me, it was almost unmanageable to get through. There was a lot of stuff to read through, and it wasn't really my cup of tea. So no, it wasn't for me. But so no, none of the anti-AA stuff really has helped me. It kind of annoys me, to be honest with you. I've been in some anti-AA, fiercely anti-AA Facebook groups with good intentions to just kind of learn what the deal was. But as soon as I mentioned anything about being a secular AA, they were just so against it that I couldn't even stand. I couldn't be in that group anymore. I mean, I was just being attacked. So it's just kind of weird to me. I don't mind if someone doesn't like AA. I totally understand it. There's a lot of good reasons why you wouldn't like it. I can understand why people would avoid it, like the plague, and people who've had terrible experiences in it, and they shouldn't go. And I totally agree with that. I have no problem with that. So it's just the telling. I mean, but I do go to AA meetings, secular ones, and I'm okay with it. And I don't consider myself to be, trying to convince anyone else to do the same thing. So I don't know. It's
well,
too much for me.
I'm a part of quite a few different groups. I guess I'm subscribed to them, but I don't participate in most of the groups I'm subscribed to because I got a lot going. I'm very busy and important, people.
I know.
but like one of them, the Anonymous Addiction at My Truth AA, the As Bobby C Sees It group. I see that one quite a bit, and sometimes they are very much anti AA, but when somebody asked about secular AA meetings, if anybody got anything out of them, or I said, that I was, and that I started one, and that it's been, essential to my recovery. And that's basically all I said. I didn't, say, and if you don't believe in it, then you're stupid, or, anything like that.
Right.
And so, so nobody came at me about it. There were other people who said, I think it's just as stupid as AA and stuff, but it wasn't like, to me, it was answering the question that the first person posed. And so I think part of it depends on, mindset of, the questions and responses, and taking things personally or not. So that's, pretty much, and the other ones are that I, belong to and sometimes see anti-AA stuff is, sometimes the Buddhist groups or the Dharma recovery, they're generally not, worded in the same way as, say, Bobby C's group would word things, or SOS group, things like that. So there's some that are out there that I do see some things that are critical, but generally, I agree with quite a bit of the criticism, because it's stuff that I don't care for as well. And it's just kind of a, do you work your program and try to influence from the inside, or do you try to start something on the outside? And I think all of the above is good for people in recovery.
Yeah, I once, about several years ago, when I was first kind of getting involved with Facebook and AA and so forth, I joined the Leaving AA group, which I think was Monica Richardson's group, and she's the person who produced that movie, The 13th Step. And I very innocently posted something about secular AA meetings and thinking that that would be welcomed, and it was anything but welcomed. And so I left that group. And then there were some other groups like that too, where some people were familiar with my podcast and started coming after me. So I just stay away from them. it's, it's funny. I kind of mentioned earlier that I said that I think that, the fights within AA might be healthy because at least people are engaged in their recovery.
Yeah.
In one sense, it kind of is because people have a passion, something that they are fighting for, and it's important as in their recovery and keeps them focused on their recovery. So maybe it's good. But on the other hand, I get really tired of the intra recovery fights. I
Hmm.
just don't get it because recovery is all about finding your own path,
Yeah.
and you should be able to mix and match different things. You
Yeah.
should be able to go to a smart recovery meeting if you want to, and also
Hmm.
attend a life ring meeting, or also attend an AA meeting if you want to.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, I've been to a traditional AA meeting not that long ago, and I actually was okay with it. So, you
Yeah.
know, I think it's totally okay to mix and match things up, and I don't think that we have to be in camps fighting each other. And same
Right.
with the topic of spirituality that we're talking about today, or spiritual awakening. So what? Let people talk about their recovery however they want to, as far as I'm concerned, whether they're in a secular AA meeting or not.
Right.
Anyway, oh
Yeah.
boy, it
And,
feels good to
and there's
pontificate.
a lot of secular people that the spiritual word isn't, a problem for. There's a lot of
Right, it's
Buddhists
true.
that can
Oh,
consider spirituality, a major thing. And so, yeah, so it's, not something that I find, a problem, language wise. It's not something that I would generally attribute to the way that I think about things. But as most of my Buddhist friends say, well, spirit means to breathe or of
yeah,
breath, and
right.
and so that's one way to think about it. And it's like, yes, that I breathe, so therefore I guess I'm spiritual, but generally it's how I present myself to people, and being open to how they are, and that sometimes people are at different places, and sometimes if you just decide, realize that you're atheist and that there are other atheists out there that are in AA, then you really come on strong of this is what it is, because you're happy that you finally found people similar to yourself.
Right.
And so, I think that a lot of us go through that phase, and some people stay there. It's, where they feel comfortable. And some of us continue, to find different things that interest them and that help them to, grow and look at things in a different way. And so my connection with the Bobby C group is mainly that we get some people in our group, in the Beyond Belief group, that are really, really angry at
Right. And you
AA,
channel them over there.
yeah. And so that I channel them over to a place where they can express that anger,
Right.
and not, have other people get all, up in arms as
Right.
well. And
Right.
so yeah, so, and it's an easier way, or to have them be able to get what they need, which they came to our group for, I guess. But that's really not what our group is about. It's more of a beyond belief, meaning that we're talking generally about very specific, concrete, everyday things that you do to stay
Yeah.
sober, and
Yeah.
what the being in recovery and walking a road in recovery for your life is.
And by
And
the way, I
so,
almost
yeah,
left our Facebook group again. I
yeah,
stick in there. It's really bad when you start a Facebook group and you don't even want to stay there. Oh my
yeah,
God.
it is difficult running Facebook groups. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, this has been fun. Yeah, I thank you everybody for hanging in there with us. We've had like 20 people throughout this thing. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, Tracy. It was good to hear from Fred again. It's good to see some of the jokes out there. I think it's nice to have David in there from KC. Oh, it's been a lot of fun. I'm so glad it's Friday, and I'm looking forward to the weekend. I am going to take some time this weekend to get caught up on some podcast editing and get them posted. I went a week or maybe even longer without posting an episode, and God, that just happens sometimes. It just kind of just happens. So
yeah,
I'm going to get back into that this weekend and get myself caught up. But
sounds good.
good God, I tell myself, I can't, if I'm at the point where I'm like too tired to edit a podcast and post it, and it just seems like drudgery and I'm just forcing myself, I just can't do it. I just can't do
Yeah,
it, and I
it's
won't.
okay.
So yeah. Anyway,
No,
thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Angela, for being with me once again. It's been a lot of fun talking to you, and I hope that you will have a good weekend. I will certainly try. And
yeah, you too. It
oh
was
yeah, and I'll
nice to
let you guys
see you
know
guys.
about the meeting tomorrow, what happens. So
All right. We'll
yeah.
be looking forward to hearing the news.
Okay, here we go. I'm just going to play this music to say goodbye to everybody. Goodbye, everybody. We'll be back again next week with another live stream. Until then, y'all be well. Bye bye.